DC on 3, family on 6. 1, 2, 3! DC! 4, 5, 6!
Welcome back to the Dream Center podcast. I'm Massey.
Armando.
And I'm Seneca.
Special guest today, another one, episode 4 of this podcast. We're joined with Seneca Rogers, right?
Yes.
Right on. So to have you on our podcast, first of all, we're happy to have you here. Kind of like jumping straight into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first off, I appreciate y'all having me here as a part of your podcast and your new episode. But yeah, I'm Seneca Rogers. I grew up here in Alamance County, right here in Burlington. Not actually that far from the Dream Center, in Town and Country, right over there behind Compart Plaza. Went to Andrews, Broadview, and Cummins. Graduated from Cummins back in 1998. Played basketball while I was there. Ran track while I was there. Actually a state champion in track.
Whoa.
And state MVP in track too.
Was Coach Davis your coach?
Coach Davis was my coach.
He's another G.
Yeah, Coach Davis is. I mean, hey, he's one of the dopest. I consider him one of my mentors growing up and everything too. So, and then went off to North Carolina A&T. You know, Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride.
You know,
Aggie
sweatshirt. Yeah. And ran track there for 4 years. And after graduating, I stayed in Greensboro for a little bit, and then eventually I moved back here. And now been staying here for the past couple of years, just working for LabCorp. I'm married now for 15 years, and continuing doing community work, community activism, community advocate, especially around public education and stuff with our next generation.
Right on.
That's pretty cool.
We're all like Cummings alumni, right?
Yeah.
We're all.
Yeah. Followed a similar path. The only difference is I went to East Lawn Elementary, but I went to Broadview, so I went to Cummings, and I went to A&T. Graduated in 2015. I played football at A&T.
Oh, word.
So,
hey, that's dope right there. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of East Burlington kids hanging out and everything, and doing
telling
our
your
thing.
stories.
Yeah.
So like, how was it like growing up in Burlington, like throughout the years?
Throughout the years, I mean, I enjoy my time. I love being, as I always say, just a kid from East Burlington.
Oh.
But of course, you know, some of my friends, they had various difficulties. It's not to say that growing up in East Burlington is like always just easy, because of course there's various things that are not, I guess you can say, it's not available to you that you can see in other places in the county. But I mean, it was just typical kid life, like getting up on Saturday, jumping on the bike, riding to a friend's house, probably half of the day y'all there playing basketball on their court, maybe going playing a pickup football game, ride your bikes down to Compart Plaza. We used to go down there and actually go to Little Caesars, put our money together, go to Little Caesars, get a couple of pizzas, and sit right down there at Compart and eat them, and then go back to whatever we were doing. So that was.
Do you remember the ice cream shop? That was Little Caesars?
Yeah.
There was like an animal shop. Around the corner, and then the ice cream shop was right there.
Yeah, like we used to go there a lot. We actually used to go to the animal pet store a lot too. Go in there, look at all the various pets they have. I mean, Compart Plaza then had a lot going on.
Yeah.
It had a whole lot going on. Like, you know, from the food line to roses and everything.
That first taste been there.
Yeah, that first taste ain't going nowhere.
Nah.
Yeah, first taste ain't going nowhere. But yeah, like, I mean, so it was a lot of that going on. And then too, getting older, you know, expanding out with the friend base and everything. But overall, always staying with that core right there in East Burlington. Right. Staying around my people right there in East Burlington, a lot of family right around that area too. So
we were talking too before we started filming how this is really the first time we actually meet formally, but we see you everywhere, man. Like anywhere we go, North Park or, you know, Graham for festivals, where we always see you there. So what is it that you do? What else are you involved in?
Well, like I said, it's a lot of community stuff. One, I'm a part of an organization called Future Alamance, which is a nonprofit, and really about working for engagement, equity, and inclusiveness for the whole community, and trying to see what ways within those gaps we can step in for people. We done stuff from feeding families at Thanksgiving. We done other things on like Christmas cheer stuff, back to school things, like what we were talking about before we got on air is the back to school backpack giveaway that North Park does. I've been a part of helping as one of the partners for that over the past 3 to 4 years now. They actually now allow for me to be like the MC for the event. So trying to keep the crowd going and introducing the various acts that we have there. And then I'm also a part of the King's Academy mentoring group there too, which has been incredible because it's my way of also giving back to the next generation, meeting some of these young men who look like me, grew up in the same areas like me, and trying to pass along my knowledge base to them, but then also listening to them too. And then also just always trying to go somewhere and see what's happening in the community, keeping my hand on the pulse of what's going on in the community, staying attached to them, because I feel like I'm from the community, so I should be out there with them and enjoying the times that are good, times that are bad, whatever it is, and trying to help everybody to see what it can look like if we're all working together and creating a better Alamance County, a better community for everyone. So so I do get a lot of stuff. Some people even told me in the past, like they thought it was maybe 2 of me because they would see me at like multiple things throughout the day. And I just tell them like, hey, I just keep on moving. Now, when it's not anything going on, that's probably a lot of napping and resting and sitting on the couch doing completely nothing. But if there's stuff happening and people got things going on, I want to go out there and support people.
For sure.
Yeah, so.
And it's supporting the community is one of the best things I think anybody could do. Like it's hard to stay away from home, at least for me. Like after I graduated, I also stayed in Greensboro for a while. I didn't actually just moved back last year. And part of the reason I moved back here in Burlington was because of the Dream Center, because I saw everything the Dream Center was doing. I started coaching here, and then I started helping in the community meetings as a translator.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, like I feel like I have to do something more for my community. And that's when, you know, Pastor Lisa had already talked to me before, and I told her, yeah, I'll do it. I'll come work. But it's home, man. It's nothing better than seeing home flourish, you know?
Yeah, and that's very true. Like, it's nothing better than seeing home flourish. Because, like you said, I mean, I could have stayed in Greensboro. I mean, I got involved in a couple of things up there, but I was like, you know what? Like, going back home, seeing stuff get better back home, and seeing like people who I grew up with, working with them on certain things, it just gives you a different feeling when that is happening at home than happening somewhere else. So yeah, I can agree with you on that 100%. And one thing that you brought up that I think is great, and it's also something that I feel like is needed more with our schools and our school board meetings, is making them more inclusive to our Spanish speaking community. Because right now at the meetings, I'll see some of our families that come in that are Spanish-speaking families, and they'll be there, and then you'll see like their kid or somebody trying to translate what people are talking about up there. I've even talked to some of the guys that's in the tech department about, hey, is there maybe some type of technology, earphones or something that y'all can give them while they're sitting here and people are talking that is translating it for them to feel like they're included in that. So you doing that translation stuff and being a translator, that's great. I commend you for that.
Yeah, and it's something I was actually talking about it with Pastor Lisa yesterday too, trying to help parents, because we had a community meeting here about 2 weeks ago, and something that was brought up a lot was getting parents more involved in the school, right? Like for example, you go to parent-teacher meetings. A lot of parents don't go,
right?
Either because they don't know about it, or just because they know they're not going to understand anything that's going to be going on there. So that's something we talked about. Hopefully, I can talk to whoever it is I can, so we can get involved there too. We have a lot of bilingual workers here, so I mean, we can help in that way. I mean, we'll be more than happy to, because I think it's something that's needed. And it's like, I can't remember who said it, but I heard it somewhere where kids spend 8 to 10 hours, a day in school. So parents have to know who their kids are hanging out with, who their teachers are and stuff like that. That way they're more informed, able to keep up a little more with that and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Having like education, you're very involved with like education and promoting education. What is a need? I mean, I personally just recently started subbing at schools around here. I mainly go to Cummings, but like I see it how it's kind of developed or changed from like when I used to go to school to now. But what's your thoughts on like having the education around here?
I mean, education to me is very important. That's why I'm such a big advocate around public education. Because at the end of the day, 85 to almost 90% of our kids are going to end up in public education because they take everyone. So you're getting kids from all different types of walk of life. I feel like a lot of the big things is, of course, making sure that we're doing things in our school system and with education that's setting up our kids for success, a successful pathway for whatever success looks like for them. Like what success looks like for me is possibly not going to look the same for you, or anybody else. But creating those pathways to they can be successful down whichever way they want to be. So I think that's very important, and continue to broaden their horizons, exposing them to things they might not think about or be exposed to where then they might go down a route to be like, oh, well, I never thought about possibly being an interior designer until I took a class in interior design and I found out now I like this a lot. Like, I want to design rooms, homes, and stuff like that. Or you might have a kid who wants to get into web design or creating games and things like that, especially now with how much games that people play in the gaming world. So that
esports is a real thing.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. So to get into that stuff, to be able to create that, and then also teachers, retaining our teachers, recruiting teachers, and then having a diverse workforce in there, because there's been plenty of studies that shows that our students, when they see somebody who looks like them, they do better. And so we have to continue to try to recruit teachers, but then also retain the teachers that we have, because we have great teachers. And some of that is going to come from paying our teachers better, which the state of North Carolina right now is not even at the national average on teachers' pay. So we got to get better with that. We got to also support our teachers, because we can't just sit up here and tell our teachers like, hey, make sure you take care of yourself. We got to do stuff to end up asking them, what does taking care of you look like too? And then another thing is, like you was talking about the parent-teacher meetings. We need parents' involvement. A big thing for me was trying to see about PTOs in every school, to where you build those relationships with those parents. But also we got to make sure that it's inclusive too.
Well, what is a PTO?
A PTO is a parent-teacher organization.
Okay.
And they do a lot of stuff. Like some of the meetings that I've been to with some of these PTOs, like they're handling lunch duty for teachers. So then a teacher can actually go and sit on their own and have lunch by themselves, not sitting with the classroom, because now those parents are actually watching their classroom for them. Then some will come in and support other stuff, like they raise money. Like there was one PTO that raised money to add on more playground equipment for the school. So, but I mean, they do various things, and to have them involved in that is, to me, very vital and important, because as a person growing up here, both of my parents was involved in the PTO. They was heavily involved in what was going on with me in school. So I want to see those parents involved. But also I know that, parents sometimes work gets in the way, life gets in the way, and things like that. So trying to figure out other ways to keep them included into what's going on in their child's life, because we can't just sit there and say because a parent isn't showing up that they're not want to be included.
Yeah. So what about those parents that can't make, the teacher meetings, or can't go in the mornings? Is the ones that works from 9 to 5. So what can they do to get involved?
I think there can be multiple things. Like there can be possibly like some after school stuff. Like it was one school recently who was having like this big after school thing at the beginning of the year around like the open house and stuff. And so I think that's another way for our parents to get involved. But then also, I think it has to be, some of these schools have to also look at other ways of meeting those parents and meeting that community where they're at, to understand that this parent might not be able to come to these meetings at this time or whatever, because who knows, they might be a single parent, got multiple kids, picking them up from multiple schools or getting them dropped off. So then now, I mean, a lot of stuff happen online, right? So what about a way of setting up a certain time to do like a Zoom call with them and doing that? I just think we can't just sit up here. You can't just say because you're not in person that you do not want to be involved or whatever, because there's a lot of folks who do want to be involved. But like I said, I mean, life gets in the way. Life is happening,
Yeah.
or whatever. So you gotta be creative. You gotta think outside the box with it. But everybody's also got to have a little bit of flexibility on what that looks like too.
And also like the motivation to do
Yeah.
these holidays, because like I see like in the school, like you can just tell like by the kids like how their parents are. You know, it's like a reflection of them. And like some of the parents, you know, just are not there. They don't care enough for them. So like, what do you think that could be done? Like when there is the parents are not there. Or just, you know, immigrant parents work all the time.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, like when I ran for school board, I came up with a campaign slogan as a way of getting people to just remember who I was, right? So I used my name, since it's Seneca Rogers, Mr. Rogers, the neighborhood. So my campaign slogan was, "We are the neighborhood." But really, when I thought about it, it was more than a campaign slogan. It was also like similar to the way I grew up, to the fact of it takes a village to raise a child. So then those parents who aren't there, you need those other people who can be around you, that's around your kids, that you trust to be your neighborhood, to stand in those spaces for your kids too. Because I know for myself, my parents would be at a lot of stuff, but sometimes if they couldn't show up to something, my neighbors would come to it.
Oh, wow.
Or they would give me a ride to it. Like I remember doing a carpooling in the morning, where neighbor right up the road would pick me up and our other neighbor take us to school and everything, and then they would just rotate around that. So I think that's a part of what has to go on, is that the community itself has to truly be that neighborhood around our kids now, because they're going to need that. The parents might need that. If the parents are involved but can't be there, if there might be a uncle, a sister, a brother, grandmothers, grandparents that can come to some of the stuff, that can be helpful. Neighbors doing stuff and everything too. Building those relationships with people who you trust, I think, can be important. And also, I feel like they're beneficial to the kids too.
Of course, and it is, because it also builds almost like a mentorship program in itself.
Yeah.
You know, knowing there's people that care about you, that you can rely on. I know when my parents growing up, that was the thing too. Like when they couldn't make it, my uncles would, or whatever the case may be. Once I got into college, it kind of transitioned from there. It was my coaches that helped me a lot. And I know my parents couldn't take me to my recruiting visits, so it was either Coach Hawks or Coach Null, who was my kicking coach. And they would be the ones that would take me to my recruiting trips. And I mean, for my parents, yeah, it sucked them not being able to go, but at least they knew there was somebody that cared.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was there.
Yeah.
You mentioned, like, sorry, not to interrupt,
No,
but
you're
like
fine.
you mentioned like Coach David, like being a mentor for you, and also like having this mentorship program. Armando's in with
the GAP program.
The GAP program,
Yeah,
where he mentors kids in the Broadview, and that's like how important that is for the kids.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's very important nowadays for our kids, because the kids are growing up in a different era. Like I think about for myself, it's a different era from me. It's a different era probably for both of y'all too. Like now what the kids deal with, from social media to other just influences in their lives and everything. So putting more positive influences, people who really care about them, because that's even a conversation that I had with my nephew one day. Me and him was talking, and like for my nephew, I've been basically like the main male figure in his life. I'm the person who, if my sister can't be at his one-on-ones with teachers, I'm there. Like I drop him off at school every morning. Every first day of school from kindergarten up until now, I've been there. But I told, like me and him was talking, I said, you know, there's some kids who, they don't have that person who is there for them. Like we don't know what they're walking out of their house, coming to school and bringing with them. So having mentors around, people who can show them that they care, show them they're going to be consistent and there.
That's the key right there.
Because I think some of the kids feel like you can end up telling me that you're going to be there, and then I might not see you no more.
Yeah.
But if you like, hey, I'm going to be here, I'm going to come here on Tuesday, we're going to get to do this, and then you're there Tuesday. You're like, hey, you got a game, such and such, okay, I'm going to come out there and see your game. And then they see you at that game, they start to realize like, oh, they're really showing up, like they really care. And that gives them a person to be like, well, I know they're there for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of kids now need a trusted adult or a trusted person in their life that they can go to with stuff. Of course, we're going to want it to be their parents, right? You want that to be the parent, but in some cases that might not be there for that child. So who else can they have around them, I think is very important.
Yeah.
And then like just talking to some of them, some of these kids don't even understand how to relate over what emotionally might be happening with them, or being able to sit in a certain emotion now and have the language to even talk through what that emotion is. So I think that's important. They can learn from people too.
Yeah, some of these kids definitely deserve a second chance too. Like,
Absolutely.
When you talk to a kid, you don't really realize what they're going through, kind of like you said. But also, like, a lot of times, going to Cummings, you always get this generalization of, oh, their school's ghetto. Oh, there's already a picture there of what you expect to see from that kid. So a lot of people look for that. They look for the bad things. Yeah. But some of these kids, we get them a lot through here, man. We get hundreds of kids here every week. And some of those kids, sometimes all you got to do is sit and talk to them, and they remember you. Yeah. And like they remember him every time they see him at Cummings. I get text messages, "Hey, Coach, Habibi's here." So it's like that. To me, that's one of my favorite things. So that's why I love helping kids, man. Like sometimes when I go to Broadview, last year I only had one kid that I was mentoring, but it was like I had 50 of them because I was walking through the hallway. Some of those kids would see me, they sit up, get things together and stuff like that. So.
You start to give them a certain expectation. Like you said, when they see you, they sit up or they'll start to smile and there's different things. So that's a big impact too. That's a big impact. And I'm glad you touched on the whole fact of the perception around like a Broadview Cummings kid. Because I mean, all of us grew up in that, so that's all the perception that a lot of people gave us too. Like, I mean, even as an adult now, I end up telling folks sometimes, like, I graduated from Cummings. They'd be like, "Oh, really? Like, you really went
That's
to Cummings?"
so funny because I get the same thing. Yeah. And like, I grew up, ever since middle school, and I started going to Western Middle. And like, when they redrew the district, I went to Williams. And I remember the day, because we bought the house here, so we had to move. And I remember like, I found out that I was gonna go to Cummings, and like I heard from everybody like the reputation that Cummings has, and I was like, oh, maybe this is like a rough place. And but like, to be honest, that's where I met my best friend. That's where I met so many people that are they feel so close to you, and they're strangers, but you get to know them and you interact with them, and you're like, this is not what you expected. But the perception and the reality that they portray is like, this is a ghetto school, and there's fights happening in here and there, and like, you gotta look over your shoulder and stuff like that. But that's not the truth. That's not the full truth of it.
No, that's not the full truth. Because I mean, fights are happening in any one of our schools and stuff like that. I mean, there's stuff happening in any one of the schools. It's not abnormal or overabundance just because it's Cummings or Broadview.
They have like everybody has like some sort of bias, but like a lot of people have this bias of like having Cummings as like, as you said, like they get a school. But how can we like educate somebody or like have some knowledge for these people that, this is not what it is?
Well, I think part of it is, I mean, us three right here, we're a product of that too. Like we show that by what we do daily and the people that we encounter, and they get to actually see it and be like, oh, like I said, like I tell somebody I'm from Cummings, they'd be like, oh, for real? Yeah. And I'd be like, yeah. They'd be like, oh. And so then like they get a whole different perspective. But 100%. What I would love to see is more people actually visit the school and go over there, meet some of the teachers who are there. Because if they meet some of the teachers who are with these kids, they can end up telling them a lot about it. But then also if they're there and actually interact with a lot of the kids from a Cummings or Broadview and Andrews, East Lawn, they'll see it themselves. Like these kids are awesome kids. And I mean, that's not to say that other kids in Alamance County is not. I feel like our next generation can do so much stuff. Like it's so much potential and so many things that's right there with them. But talking about like these kids in East Burlington, is so many bright kids. It's so many kids who has big dreams and want to go after them and stuff. And I feel like if people get around them and see them and talk with them, interact, they'll get to see that. And it won't be that same perception for them anymore. It won't be it won't be that same bias as what people put on
100%,
there.
man. It's like I know it sounds like I just like to show them off, but for example, my boys, my soccer team, you know, everything that we did was from the community that helped us out, and from that, our boys went to win in a regional, to win a national championship, to competing in England.
Yeah,
you know, something that had as far as I know, hadn't been done in here.
No, that was a big deal.
But it's like, you know, it's boys from here, from this area, you know, and it's like support, man. That's what support can get you. And it's just right now it was soccer. Down the line, it can be something greater.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, hey, talk about your boys, because that was a big deal. Like when I talked to Pastor Lisa and she was telling me about it, I was like, oh, that is awesome. Like, you know, just send me something so I can end up making a donation to them so they can go over there to England. I was like some kids from here are going over to England to play soccer. Like, that is huge. So yeah, I always talk about that, because people are looking at that. People see that, and that gives them something to see that is actual achievable. It's no longer a dream. It is something that, like, oh, they actually achieved that.
And like you were talking about representation, man, like seeing something like, oh, they can do it, I can do it too. You know, and it's happening. Like, for example, right now we have close to 300 kids in our soccer league, and but we have 2 competitive teams, a U12 and a U10, and same thing. Like, it's awesome looking at them practice, because they practice so serious, because they want to be, you know, they want their picture to be up on the wall too.
It's like it's the philosophy of ours, and like having these like kids here, like we want them to flourish and to show them that it's possible for you too. And something that I wanted to ask you, like, and your name is Seneca, of course, and like philosophy for me is a big part of like education. I'm really big on philosophy. I read like Marcus Aurelius' book on like meditation and stuff like that, and of course, like Seneca is one of the biggest philosophers out there. So I want to ask you, like, what is your philosophy?
That's a good one. What is my philosophy? My philosophy comes down to a couple of things. One of them is faith without works is dead. That's from the Bible, James 2:26. It's a scripture that my pastor gave to me when I decided to first run for school board. And he was like, so just keep that with you and remember that. And so I take that with me in my everyday life, because I have faith in our community. I have faith in our school system. I have faith in the people who are here in this community. So I'm willing every day to go out and work for them, work for ways of making things better for our community, for the next generation, for everyone who's around here. And then another thing is inclusion is better than exclusion. And that is because I feel like there's no one community that you should only talk to one voice, because that whole community is not monolithic. Like, just thinking of me as a black male in the African American community, y'all two as Latinx Hispanic people, I shouldn't just sit down and speak to just one of you and think like, oh, I've got the whole perspective from that whole community. No, that is your perspective, that is your life experience, because then that puts us in a box of saying that whole community is just one monolithic voice. And so I feel like we need to get everyone around the table. Let's all talk, let's all chat it out, let's see what we can come up with as a collective, and we're gonna basically build better together than we would ever apart. So let's really do that together. And bringing up Seneca the philosopher, I have a quote on the end of my email that's from Seneca the philosopher that says, luck is created when opportunity meets
I forgot. I don't want to butcher. What was it?
Luck is created when opportunity meets preparation.
Yes, that's what it is. I really like. That's good.
Yeah.
All of like the Roman philosophy, especially like from back in the day, I'm really fascinated by it. Especially like Marcus, I don't know if you ever read his book of meditation. Like when he talks about like just even like getting up for like to wake up in the morning and to start his day, and it's just like a crazy thing that is like of somebody like a Roman emperor like has a hard time waking up just to start his day. Right. And to connect with being able to connect with potentially like a Roman emperor, but just reading his like what is basically his diary, that's been published, and having that connection. And it's like the same thing like with the community, like being able to connect people with like even small things like that, just like soccer or coffee if it is here, or just if it's like supporting the same team that you guys are, or going to the same college,
Right.
It's very important, and just like trying to have that connection. That's why I try to like be as diverse as I can with everything. People know me as like doing everything. Like I did real estate, and then I was like, this is not for me. And I did what's that called? Like studying again, and like going to like flight school and potentially be a pilot, and but also like teaching at the school, and
Right.
people like the kids even like, really, like you do this stuff, and like you can do that, and like I tell them like anybody can do that. If I can do it with my schedule, like anybody, you can do that too. And I get really happy that I can show them that to say like what's possible, and like you can see it on the kids' faces, like when you go in and you come to their class and they're like, yo, what's up, Massey, or like they're trying to say, I hate like the format like calling me like Mister, so I like just call me Massey,
Yeah.
I'm not your buddy, but like I want to be able to be there for you, to help you, and there's like something about that. It just really it makes me feel good. Just being there.
Yeah, being around kids and being around people, like it can just make you feel good. Last year I visited one of my friends. She was a teacher at East Lawn, and I would visit her 4th grade class. And one of the kids in there, Kevin, he just became my buddy or whatever. Like Kevin was funny to me because Kevin would always be doing something. Like he was always doing something, and she would always be like, Kevin, what are you doing? Or whatever, but Kevin became my buddy. And so one of the last times that I was there, Kevin was not there, and he actually recorded a message that she sent to me of him saying like he hated that he missed me or whatever, hopes to see me again. So I got to go back and visit my buddy Kevin over there at East Lawn. But being around them, they light me up, and they let me know like a lot of the stuff that I do to try to make things better for what it's going to look like in the future is the reason why. So I really enjoy them.
What do you like, talking about the kids and them being the future of, Alamance, or, the future of this neighborhood, or whatever they represent, what do you like to see for them?
I want to see the sky's the limit for them. Whatever they can think of, they can end up making happen. Not to box them in. Allow for them to be the creative minds that they are, and to embrace everything that's around them. Not to label them. Not to just say that this is only the path for you. Like you said, you done tried real estate. You're doing teaching. You're pilot. All of that stuff. Hey, I want them to have all of that. That whatever. Go along and figure it out, because you only get one life to live, so make sure that you're living it to your fullest. Right. And a big thing too is to be themselves, not look at being the second of whatever, be the first you. There's already a LeBron James, there was already a Kobe Bryant, there's already a Beyonce, there's already a Messi. There's all of these people who's already famous and doing great at what they do every day. So why can you not be the next great of who you are? And then people are looking at you. So be the first you. Don't always look at trying to be the next this. Be the first you. Because if you go about that and be the first you, you're going to create so many great things. And I want more opportunities to be here for them. I'm just hoping from what I do and before I leave Earth that there's more opportunities created for them than there was for me. And then after them, there's even more opportunities from that too.
That's one of like the key things that I think the youth have to understand, especially now with the social media age, is don't be everybody, man. Don't be everybody, because it's a thing that you hear, and we try to tell our kids that a lot here too. And it's like, well, such and such is doing it, or this and that, like that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. Right. Because I say a lot of things that Coach Brower used to say when I was at A&T. And it's like he used to always say winning is hard. He was like, if winning was easy, everybody would do it. And
That's facts.
Yeah, man, that's the facts. Not just in sports, man, but in life too. That's facts. Like if you do the same thing everybody else would do, you just one of the bunch, man.
Yeah. Create your own lane. There's so many lanes out here for you to just create your own, like to be in your own space. It might take you some time to get to it. It might be hard along the way, but I remember this lady who I worked with, Miss Doris. She used to always tell us this all the time. Y'all see my glory, but y'all don't know my story. Or whatever, and it was a lot with that, because she was like, y'all see where I'm at today, but you don't know what that path was to get me here. So go out there and create your own lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning is in the preparation.
Oh yeah. When I was when I was a kid, I was really fascinated. Like I think it was like when Messi and Ronaldo was on their prime, and like they used to like have like the sponsorship of Nike and Adidas, and they always have like their shoe. And like when I came to America, my goal was like, oh, if I can have this shoe, I can play like them, and I could do this. And like I remember, like the Nike Venom came out, and I was like, I'm gonna get him. And I didn't have the money to get him at that time, but I went to Ross and like found the cleat, and I was like, oh, we can get it, and I got it. And you know, I started looking up and seeing highlight videos of like Ronaldo and like how he moves, and like I would try to imitate that. And like the next year I would get like a Messi cleat, and I was trying to like do his things. And I don't know, one of my coaches said like it was this quote. He was like, stop trying to be like everybody, because everybody else is taken. So try to play like you would play. And when you guys talk about having like your own path and creating stuff like that, I resonate with that too. Like just having your own thing, because a lot of kids, and it's easy to relate with somebody, but to say like to idolize more than anything, it's good. It's a good like I guess somewhat a mentor, but it's not the end all. And like to be able to empower like a kid and is like a boy, and to tell him you can create your own path, and you don't need to be like X or Y.
We were talking about something similar earlier too, when we were talking about the GOAT talk. Excuse me. How everybody who's considered the GOAT is different, man. They're all different, and their mentality is different, and stuff like that. Like I don't really watch basketball, but I love hearing Kobe Bryant's videos of just him talking, how he talked about, there was one about his teammates, like, why would I pass you the ball if you're not putting in the work? Like, why would
I like that one too. I like that one too. Yeah, that was a real good one, because then I was like, well, I mean, that makes sense. He's not giving you the ball because he ain't seen you put in the same work. So
like that man was different.
Being able to go to A&T, big college, like especially like around here, what is something that, because I talk to kids, and they're like, college, man, you gotta get along and stuff like that, and they don't realize that it's so much possibility out there, even so for college. I was the hard-headed kid that was like, I will never go to college, and that's why I went to real estate. And now that I get more open-minded to like going back and get like higher education, that's when I was like, no, like there's so much more. So like for the audience and like the people that are seeing this, or the parents, what are the ways, or can we like inform that what are the possibilities with the college and resources?
Ooh, like
big
college, college is so much, because like I mean, like for me, A&T was not my first choice. I wanted to go to UNC Chapel Hill. I mean, I was a big Carolina fan, so that was always like the dream school, to go to UNC Chapel Hill. But then when I was coming out and, my track stuff was going on, and I visited various schools. When I went up to A&T and I visited with my coach at the time, it just ended up feeling like home to me. So I decided like, well, this is where I'm gonna go. And then also, I mean, it did help that they was giving me a scholarship too, because then my parents didn't have to worry about how they were gonna pay for me to be at school. But then once I was there, I was like, it's only in Greensboro. I'm right there in Burlington. It's not really that far away. Like, it seems like all of that. But then once I was there, it was really like a whole different world. And you're there, you're with your teammates, but then you're with other people who play sports. But then you're with the students who you come in contact with, and you're meeting these people from all across the country. And you're like, wow, like you're here at A&T, you came all the way from California out here, like, you know, and then like them talking to you about that. So it's so many possibilities, but also like you don't have to just look at it being a 4-year college, like it being an A&T, a Chapel Hill, a UNC Charlotte, you know what I'm saying, like a Georgia, Alabama. It doesn't have to be that. It can be you possibly going to an ACC.
Yeah.
And going there and getting a start on something, or going down there, getting certified in something or whatever. You're still getting a college education, because those are still college instructors and everything. So you can go that pathway. If it's about being at a smaller college like a Greensboro College or Guilford, or down at possibly like a place like a Barton or different things like that. Like, I mean, it's so many, like when you go out here and look, it is so many colleges and universities out here. Like, I mean, it's insane. So it's so many opportunities to go to schools. Of course, like the big ones always look so good and shiny, but that might not be the fit for you.
Oh yeah.
And like also as parents need to understand that too, that like that big school might not be the fit for your kid, because you want them to go somewhere. And this is a thing that Coach Davis told me when I was looking at going to college. He was like, hey, choose you a school that you can see yourself being at for 4 years. Like, of course you can end up transferring if things don't work and it's not the right way, but when you go into it, think about, well, this is the place I want to be at for 4 years. This is the place I want to get a degree from. You know what I'm saying? This is the place I want to go through the next chapter. So I think you have to look at it at all of that, because there's so many opportunities to college, but then there's so many opportunities to getting more education too. Like, there's not just college, but more ways of getting more education too. So
I think a lot of it too is exposing the students to the different options that they have. Because a lot of times, you know, parents, people from the outside push college.
Yes.
College is not for everybody, man.
Yes,
No.
it's not.
And it's like some people might not realize that they do want to follow a college education, you know, but a lot of times it comes with maturity too. Like I know my cousin, she's married to a guy, he started college late. He went to college when he was late 20s, but he ended up getting a really good job out of it. And so he ended up going to Clemson, but he started at a community college. I think his job, I'm not 100% sure, but I think his job, through it, he decided he wanted to study something in community college. From there, he decided to go bigger, and then he works something for the government now. So it's a lot of it's maturity, but a lot of it is exposure. Like what are these kids exposed to? We try to do something like that this year, where we, Masi did a Shark Tank type deal with the kids, and the kids loved it, man. And then I try to do a shop too, and it's a lot of times you find that it's the same kids that are doing the same things, right? With the same programs that we have. But we wish there was more kids that could get exposed to this type of things.
But then again, it goes back to the whole, like, you know, like not only having like one pathway, there's like multiple that you can do. You know?
So many.
Just exposing them. So like if you can give like a word of advice, like for kids that are coming up and for the audience, like what could it be? I know it's big ass, it's very open-ended, but what can you give somebody that are in the community and like just
big advice I can say is embrace your uniqueness, embrace exactly who you are, amplify that, be yourself, don't try to imitate anybody else. It's easy to do that and to get caught up in that because you see it a lot, but really if you be yourself, people are going to embrace your actual, genuine, authentic self. Continue to always be authentic every day in whatever you're doing, because that's going to resonate with people in the long run. And just understand that there's so much out here. There's a lot here in Burlington. There's a lot here in Alamance County, but there's so much out in that world. So go and be a part of it, enjoy it, and embrace it, and embrace life.
That's great, man. Seneca, we're so happy to have you here, man. Thank you for joining us. Again, thank you guys. We're going to have more stuff coming up. Igual vamos a tener más episodios en español, ya tenemos gente alineada. También, antes de terminar, quiero darle un saludo a Sharon y Jeremy, que se fueron para Kansas, ya no van a jugar con nosotros, pero les deseamos lo mejor, los queremos mucho, los vamos a extrañar. Sharon and Jeremy are going to Kansas, I don't know if you know that.
Oh no?
Yeah,
Are they going to
live?
Oh no, we're going to miss them, especially Sharon. She was on my team, so But wish you the best for everything in the future. I know they're bright kids, so yeah, we'll be here to support you as always. So yeah, and thank you for having us.
Thank y'all,
Yeah,
man.
it's
Thank
been a
y'all for
pleasure.
having me, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That's a wrap. We'll see you back next week. Yeah.
That was
That's
awesome.
great.